conversation is inspired largely, in fact, thoroughly by what uh, trended on social media about a week ago, where a tech media outfit dropped an expose on a particular startup where the boss is said to be horrible. That's how it was termed. He's said to be, dictatorial, make unreasonable demands, fire erratically, basically just not the kind of workplace that you'd, you know, go there with with peace of mind every day. And so ex-employees of the company had talked to that media outfit, which is kind of like a tech magazine, and told them about their experiences there. And they released it as an expose. And then more people on Twitter started coming forward with their stories too of that particular company as well and what they had suffered at the hands of that boss. And so it led to the hashtag horrible bosses, hashtag toxic bosses. People generally began to share their experience in places of work where they were owed salaries. Their salaries were deducted arbitrarily. Perhaps maybe they were 5 minutes late and then they'd have their salaries deducted, which, by the way, I mean, you may say, oh, okay, they're wrong in the sense that they should come early for work, they should be punctual. But that's the great thing about the panorama that we have in store for you today, because we did speak with a lawyer about some of these questions that often abound when it comes to the rights of workers, the rights of employees, and their welfare in the workplace. So that is going to be the centerpiece of our conversation, the rights and the welfare of the Nigerian worker or the Nigerian employee. And this is something that touches on virtually everyone, because even if you are not an employee, chances are you're an employer. And although this conversation centers on employees, it's also inadvertently touches on employers as well. So we'll be talking about this today, so get ready to also, listen, learn from it. We spoke to a number of stakeholders, but you know what? Let's get into it. Business owners often live by the maxim, customer is king. But Richard Branson, founder of the Virgin Group, says instead that employees come first. If you take care of your employees, they will take care of the client, he says. And there are several studies that indeed show a direct link between employee satisfaction and customer satisfaction. One of these studies is a 2019 study referenced in Harvard Business Review that showed a strong statistical link between employee well-being reported on Glassdoor and customer satisfaction among a large sample of some of the biggest brands today. Glassdoor is an American website where current and former employees anonymously review companies. It describes itself as the worldwide leader on insights about jobs and companies.
Regardless of your opinion on whether happy employees equal happy customers, an employee or worker is undeniably deserving of dignified treatment at the hands of their employer, as enshrined in Section 34 of the 1999 Constitution, which states that every Nigerian has a right to not be subjected to torture or inhuman, degrading treatment, and no Nigerian should be held in circumstances which amount to slavery or servitude. On the 21st of March, Tech Cabal, an online magazine with a focus on the tech ecosystem, published an expose on the tyrannical workplace culture within Bento Africa, a tech startup. More precisely, the expose uncovered several accounts of Bento Africa ex-employees alleging bullying, verbal assault, erratic and despotic leadership, among other maltreatments, from one of its co-founders, Abeokuta.
More people reacted to the revelations on social media by either corroborating what was shared by these anonymous former employees or narrating their own experiences at the mercy of horrible bosses. And although it started as a conversation on the toxicity of tech startup culture, it quickly spiraled into an all-comers affair, triggering a gale of Me Too's.
Over 20,000 people joined the Twitter space set up by Emmy-nominated journalist Kikimodi for victims of horrible bosses, that's an hashtag, to share their traumatic experiences in these toxic workplaces. It lasted for over 7 hours. So clearly, a significant portion of Nigerian employees had tales to tell. But how is it that many employees have suffered abuse by their employers without justice being served to the offending employer? Have workers no rights, freedoms? Why do they withstand these degrading treatment anyway, if they can simply walk away to find another job? Have they tried reporting to human resources or seeking legal redress?
Speaking of human resources, in an organization, human resources is the department in charge of all employees and employee-related operations. Now, we spoke to Dara Ewetola, who is from human resources and management consultancy firm EZ37 Solutions. Now, he defines HR as a strategy, but you should hear his explanation in full.
HR is a strategy a business employs or deploys to ensure that our people and our stakeholders are able to deliver the business key objective, vision, and mission. So that's why you see HR creates development plan. And for these people to function effectively, anything requires the right environment to operate as you expect it to. Everything requires a good habitat to thrive. So our people need to have that environment to function effectively. So that's HR. So not just the environment, also mentally and physically, the environment is conducive for them to deliver results. So that's why you see that from the foundation of an employee's life in the business, the first point of contact is the HR. How do you get in? What you experience when you are in the company and what you experience even after you've left the company. From the entry of the employee to the experience within and when they leave, HR is also supposed to ensure they have a strategy to ensure that that experience is positive, so they become ambassadors for the company, because that's also part of your strategy.
All right, you can hear him there emphasizing on strategy, but the bottom line of what he says is that, HR is supposed to create a positive environment, a positive habitat where employees can thrive, employees can leave the company and then speak of the good works of the company. Now, the question that will come to mind in this case is that how many Nigerian HR departments or HR personnel are actually living up to this definition of HR?
Or that standard?
This standard of HR. I mean, that's the HR guy. This is, as we said, this is a multi-stakeholder conversation. HR
Right.
is one of the departments involved in the company, in any company. That's the department that directly interfaces with employees, ideally supposed to see to your welfare. But
Right.
if you work in a Nigerian workplace, for example, ask yourself, when was the last time your HR came to meet you and said, how are you doing today, Winga? Winga, how are you doing today?
Well,
Lola, how are you doing today? I mean, I'm not making this about me. I'm just saying, if it was you, when was the last time? So how many Nigerian companies are actually living up to this?
I even, in a way, feel, let's not put the cart before the horse in a way. How many companies in Nigeria have functional human resources departments? I mean, to start with.
You said functional.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I was
Functional.
going to say that their companies have a room in their, a designated space, and the label HR is there.
Okay.
And so, I mean, you can't say they don't have it, but it may not be what you think it should be, but they have it. But it's good that you added the prefix functional. But anyway, he talks further about what he thinks, as one who is in that sector, what he thinks is wrong with HR and why HR does not live up to the standard that it should be here in Nigeria.
Every institution that we have, the medical profession is regulated, the accounting profession is regulated. The HR profession has a lot to do with respect to regulation. Yes, we have the labor law, but the labor law is so old and it needs review. So the strong legislation in the space of human resource in Nigeria is a dire need. The thing is, the HR is on the paycheck of the employer. So that's one big factor. You can't take that off. In anywhere in the world, the means of survival is like critical for people when you're looking at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So it's mostly tied to the fact that their paycheck is determined by the employer. So the HR is not acting independently. You're paid by the employer. And because people fear that, oh, my means of livelihood might be lost if I don't play to their tune. So what can help is when there is a law that supersedes even the employer and the regulation and legislation is very strong. If there is nothing more powerful than the employer, then he won't cower to anybody. HR cannot sanction.
All right, well, you had him there. What is wrong with HR? First off, lack of regulation. Mentions other sectors that are regulated, but, there's no regulation in exactly for the HR. He also makes reference to the Labor Act, but he says, the Labor Act is obsolete. It's old, so it's not relevant exactly in
It's
modern
not factoring
times.
current realities, basically.
There you go. I mean, just 2 years ago, remote work boomed and exploded and became a common feature in many companies. Then he also talks about lack of independence, and this sort of reminds me of. We're always talking about independence of the judiciary.
I was going to come to that, and that of the legislature as well.
The state legislature, and so he says, ideally HR should be like this neutral party, somewhat or this party that sees to the welfare of both the employee and the employer, satisfies both of them.
Right.
But the employee is not the one paying HR's salaries, right?
Right.
So HR is on the payroll. It's just like other employees on the payroll of the employer. So how can you caution your boss, in quotes?
Or maybe to say, how do you even buy the finger that feeds you? If we could put it that way as well. So I think it's a dilemma in the sense that this person pays you, and so they say who he who pays the piper dictates the tune. So because of that conundrum, then it just means it might be pretty hard for one person to say, yeah, I had the HR department, you've done this, you've run foul of one certain code or ethics or anything, and so you dance to the music, and so might just be what it is. In that regard, really, might just be what it is.
Yep. Remember that we're talking about the workplaces in Nigeria, looking at the welfare of the Nigerian worker, their rights, whether they are seen to, whether those who are supposed to see to them are seen to them. And the department that should cater to that in any company is the Human Resources Department. And so we had a conversation with an HR expert about some issues regarding this, and he's answering our questions. That's what you're hearing. If you want to talk to us about this topic, or maybe share your experience on toxic workplaces, horrible bosses, the plight of the Nigerian worker, your welfare, your rights, do you have any? You can send your questions, your comments to us on social media: Facebook Splashfm 106.7, Twitter Splashfm 1067, WhatsApp 0817-555-1067. Now, one question that we had for him as well was whether HR can sanction the boss if the boss is out of line. Let's say, because what led to this is, employees, ex-employees of the company saying, this man used to call us names, call us demeaning, degrading names. This man used to owe us salaries. He would, ask us to perform company tasks at 2 a.m. in the morning. In that case, if HR is aware of it, HR should be able to ideally call the boss to order. But can HR do that actually? He answers that as well.
HR cannot sanction the employer. If it's relating to the employer's decision against the employee on certain things around work outcomes or work performance, HR cannot really sanction. They can only advise. If it's a place where it's an open culture, where it's not toxic, they are open to reasoning, yes, there can be a middle ground. If it's a place whereby many times it happens in like a one-man organization where the person is the driver, is not so much accountable to maybe like a board, maybe like subsystems and so many other people in the ecosystem. The person always drives and controls. He can sack or fire HR at will and get another one. But when it's an environment that is ideal in quotes, so there are some companies that are listed, they are accountable to a board or they are accountable to investors and all of that. Those who won't sort of have some sort of control, except there is a culture from the board level to not respect the HR system. HR cannot sanction the
Being subjected to demoralizing comments about your work, name calling, arbitrarily docking your wages can have far-reaching consequences on your mental and physical health. According to Dr. Jibril Abdul Malik, a psychiatrist at the University College Hospital, Ibadan, and founder, Asido Foundation. Listen to him.
The impact is multifaceted. It may precipitate mental health challenges that was not there before. For instance, damage the individual predisposed to developing anxiety or becoming depressed and even suicidal. While some individuals may turn to drugs, alcohol and drugs as a coping strategy to give themselves Dutch courage to face up to the abuse or just to get through the day, function without being traumatized by the ongoing abuse. So this may be fresh onset of mental health challenges that is precipitated by the culture of bullying and abuse in a workplace. Vulnerability or has a pre-existing issues or struggles with alcohol or with drugs, or who previously struggled with low self-esteem, managing to function well. This kind of harsh and tough work environment can also what was pre-existing but just below function. There's until they enter such an environment that then compounds and worsens the pre-existing tendencies that they had. And it's multifactorial that ages or affect mental being, go home and they also transfer the aggression. So it spirals and becomes a loop that brings in more and more people and, negative.
Who's a psychiatrist at the University College Hospital, Ibadan. Anxiety, you probably want to find a way to relieve it, and then you see, people then start considering using narcotics or these what are drugs that are supposedly sedate you. So now that's from a psychiatrist's point of view,
Right.
the toll that it takes on you. He also said that for someone who maybe even was in, should I say, remission, perhaps a person was a former alcoholic, but the person has managed to conquer his or her demons, the person would then be forced to go back to it. The person would
just
relax.
Slide in again or slide back towards that habit.
Or even take out the aggression, as he said, on other people. They get home, they've dealt with, the rigors of being in a place they don't enjoy, or a place that is harmful to them, and they come back and take it out on their spouses and the like. But another question that was posed to the psychiatrist, but trying to understand, what's the effects of working in a toxic workplace is, what the effect is, how we can curb it, what are supposed to be the structures in place that are supposed to curb it in the first place that are not functioning as they should. That's why the first person we spoke to was the HR expert, Dara Iwitola. And now we listening to a psychiatrist who is telling us about the mental impact that this has. I mean, not that you need a psychiatrist to explain these kind of things to you anyway.
That's right. I quite agree with that. Maybe I could even relate with that point of when you see your phone, ringing and it's your boss and okay, so what have I done wrong this time around? What didn't I do well? Your mind begins to race through all the activities of the day and of why he or calling and all of that, having to now take it out on the nearest person that is, I mean, sane in that sense. And then suddenly there is a change person and all of that. So, I mean, maybe bosses don't understand this, is why they act the way they do. I mean, I've read quite some books on people not understanding why they do what they do. And so if the consequences sort of this trend, maybe we'll just have it. But I mean, what do I know?
I mean, I guess I could. I guess you may be playing devil's advocate in saying that bosses do not have an idea of what they are doing, or do not exactly. They're not being malicious when they do it. They themselves are probably reacting to the pressure from trying to make the business work, trying to make a go of it, and that's an argument that has also been given on social media, because while this was trending, it felt like an attack on bosses, right? And of course, bosses came out and were like, "You don't understand the pressure. Or uneasy lies the head that wears the crown.
Right.
You don't know what it's like trying to meet your KPI. I became like,
Your key performance index, and all of those
trying to meet your
things.
targets. Trying to make it. I mean, ease of doing business in Nigeria. Nigeria is not doing so well on that.
Right.
So you know that as a business owner, as a founder, as an entrepreneur in Nigeria, you're dealing with a lot. You're dealing with government policies, which can be erratic. You're dealing with other, so many things, really. So it's understandable that you're frustrated. But now the question is, should you take that frustration out on your poor
Exactly. Which is why I said, if the bosses understand, let me not use understood this time around, if they understand the consequences, how far-reaching they are in the end, to the business, the employee. I mean, for what it's worth, I personally believe that you should take care of your employees as much as possible, because they are the lifeblood of your business. I mean, if they are not doing well, if they have one concern or the other that is bogging their minds, they cannot give you 100% on that job, which is why sometimes you find companies who come up with work-life balance, getaways for certain periods of time. Companies might not be exactly be able to afford that, maybe depending on what stage or what level they are. But I mean, it goes a long way as well to understand that your employees cannot give you the 100% that you want if they are not at an optimal level, basically. So I mean, that's just what it is.
I mean, you've really knocked it out of the park there. The quote that we started with by Richard Branson says, "Employees come first. If you take care of your employees, they will take care of the clients." And that's just literally encapsulates the sentiment that you're expressing this time, which is that when you feed to your employees, what you give to them, they will in turn pour out back to your customers. Because the bottom line is you're trying to, drive up profits, right? You're trying to rack up profits. But it's the customers that will bring profit. And the customers, more often than not, will interface with your employees, not with you. You're likely not going to be there all the time, if you're even there at all.
Right.
So why not make the people who are the ones talking directly? Sometimes when you go to like grocery stores or you go to purchase something, you find that you find the cashier looking very world weary, like they have the whole problems of the world, and you do feel sympathy for them. But there's sometimes when you yourself, what you need to see is a cherry face, And prior to now, I've even talked a lot about customer service and how important customer service is, and how much customer service can lure me back to a place of business for a repeat experience. It may not necessarily even be the products that they are selling, may not be all that great.
I agree.
But the fact that they have such an amiable disposition, could have me coming back, and wanting to interact with them. So
I'd agree with that.
I guess we're kind of stalling because we had a bit of technical glitch. We want you to listen to the second part of what Dr. Jibril said when we posed the question to him, because one then asks, if working in a toxic workplace is bad for your mental health and maybe even your physical health, because there are cases where some bosses physically even assault their employees. But if it's bad for, your mental health, if you go to work and on a Monday morning and your boss is calling you names, shouting at you, raising voices at you, if it's bad for your mental health, then why not just walk away? I mean, it's your mental health. You are trying to have peace of mind, sanity, stability. But is it that cut and dried? In a country where we have 33.3% unemployment rate among the masses.
Now, you should factor in that underemployment as well. I mean, into that. I mean, people who are working, but then it's as though they're working at the wrong job.
I mean, there you go. People who are being, they are working below their qualifications.
Right.
And they are probably even earning also below what they deserve. But their own is not as dire as those who are unemployed. So, and the 33.3% is unemployment generally. But among the youths, that number is higher. 42.5% of Nigerian youths are unemployed. So generally, Nigerians there's 3% of Nigerians who are unemployed, but there's 40. So can you really say that somebody who's working in a toxic workplace should walk away? Because what happens is that you often now then have to choose between, okay, am I protecting my mental health or do I want to survive?
Right.
Because point blank, mental health is not going to pay your rent. It's not going to pay your bills. But this is a question we definitely posed to Dr. Jibril Abdul Malik, psychiatrist at the University College Hospital. And if you're curious as to what the psychiatrist's opinion on this, on choosing between your mental health and paying the bills, what does he suggest you do? Is what he says.
There is no one-size-fits-all recommendation. It has to be individualized, and what works for you may not work for me, and what works for A may not work for B. But it's important for us to prioritize our mental health, obviously, without any doubt. I would advise that if you're in a toxic environment that is damaging your mental health, your emotional well-being, and causing you emotional distress, and you are struggling to be happy and to function and to live a happy life, then you should consider walking away. But before doing so, be pragmatic enough to explore options. What are the options available to you? Maybe start applying for other jobs and so on, so that it's helpful that when you leave, you are leaving to go and do something else, even if it's to become self-employed. Make sure that you think ahead, you look well before you leap, so you are not jumping from frying pan to fire, but ensuring that you are leaving for something better, and you are leaving for something that will make you happier and more fulfilled, and will still ensure that you are able to pay your bills.
Legal redress is one option workers who have been victimized by their bosses can choose to take up, although there are several acts like the Trade Disputes Act, the Employees Compensation Act, the Factories Act that oversee matters between employer and employee. The Nigerian Labour Act is the principal law that governs employment-related matters and the relationship between an employer and an employee in Nigeria. However, the Act has its own encumbrances. Abeokuta Oguntuashi, principal partner, AO and G Associates, a Lagos-based commercial firm, talks to Splashfm about the antiquated Act.
The issue about the Labour Act, the name is called the Labour Act, but the issue is that, the Act seems anachronistic. It seems very old, considering the fact that we're still using the Labour Act of 1974. So in line with the new changes, global changes now, it is expected that we should have amended the Act to meet the new changes, the working condition, the issue of the COVID-19 and all the like. But unfortunately, the regulatory labor law that we're still using now is the Labour Act of 1974.
All right, so you had the lawyer there, Abeokuta Oguntuashi, who talked to us about the Labour Act, which regulates matters between employers and employees. Now, he also talks about common cases because many of the complaints all revolve around the same things. The boss is verbally abusive, in some cases sexual assaults, unpaid wages for months on end. So what does the law say about this? That's also a question that we posed to him, and here is what he said in response to that.
As far as verbally abusing is concerned, it is not only the Labour Act that majors on it. We also have a law that is called Employee Compensation Act that deals with occupational injury that an employee suffers in the workplace. And it is very instructive to say that there is a provision in the Employee Compensation Act that also gives employee the right to claim injury for mental stress. So verbal abuse can be based on mental stress. As far as sexual harassment is concerned, based on the fact that the National Industrial Court, being the court that has exclusive jurisdiction to handle employee matters, based on the fact that that court has given several decisions on sexual harassment. So in the event that maybe an employee suffers sexual harassment, has been sexually harassed in the workplace, and that employee has evidence to show, of course, the employee can approach National Industrial Court for damages. So not only the Labour Act, there are some other regulatory legislations like the Employee Compensation Act, like even the National Industrial Court Act, like the National Industrial Court rules. Payment of wages, that one is properly contained in the Labour Act. As far as payment of wages is concerned, Section 1 regulates wages, and Section 91 of the Labour Act actually talks about the meaning of wage. If an employee is not paying wages or is defaulting in the payment of wages, the employee can approach the National Industrial Court.
All right, so we have him there talking about, what happens in cases of verbal abuse, sexual assault, or unpaid wages. But I know that what could deter the average employee or ex-employee from pursuing legal redress is they think, what are my chances of success? I mean, come on. You're looking at lawyers' fees. You're looking at the time it will take, to get judgments, how much you would have to pay and all that. So these are factors that discourage people from seeking legal redress, even when they know that their employer has stiffed them. But I asked the lawyer that question, and here is what he had to say.
The chances of success depend. It depends on, nothing is cast in stone. If you have an allegation against me, for example, your chances of success against me, as far as the allegation is concerned, depends on your ability to prove the allegation against me. So what I would say is that the chances of success is dependent on a lot of things. It's dependent on the skill of the lawyer. It's dependent on how you can plead. It's dependent on the documentary evidence that you can bring to court to prove your case. So the chance of success is on case-by-case basis. Don't forget, the credit, it is not what happened, it is what you can prove. There are legislations that have been enacted, there are rules and regulations that have been enacted to govern that space, which is the labor space, to regulate and give the employees who is making an allegation against the employer a succor. So to that extent, I would say that in the event the employer has done something bad against the employee always has a recourse in court of law. And the recourse that the employee has in court of law, is a constitutional right. The employer has a constitutional right to approach the court, stating his grievance against the employer, stating his allegation. And the judge equally now has the right to look at that case dispassionately. And like I said before, if the employee can prove his case, damages will be awarded. We've seen several cases whereby substantial damages are awarded against the employer.
All right, so looks like it becomes a game of evidence, documentary evidence. Can you prove your case? And I'm not sure that I captured that here. I'm sure he said it, but I'm not sure that I captured that here. But he did make reference to the fact that it's important to drop a contract, ensure that you have a contract when you're getting employment,
and peruse that contract.
Absolutely. Read the fine print, because a lot of, excluding what the Labour Act says, the judgment will oftentimes be determined by what you agreed to, what you both consented to, what both parties consented to in the contract. So that is likely what it will fall back on. And if you don't have a contract, your employer can simply argue, oh, we didn't agree on this. It becomes a game of, he said, she said, and all of
your
that. Your
word against theirs.
Absolutely. All right, so let's also listen to the barrister still talking about time frame this time, or of these cases sometimes. Don't forget that you can let us know what you think. We're looking at workers' welfare and workers' rights in Nigeria. As we said, this conversation was inspired by an expose by Tech Cabal on a certain tech startup and the toxic work culture in ex-employees came out to level lots of accusations of cruelty, of tyranny in their workplace against of that particular workplace. And so when Nigerians read that story, a lot of people on social media said, hey, I can identify with it. I too have a horrible boss who made my working space and the work culture a living hell. And we decided to do a deep dive into, the work culture in Nigeria, the legal, the legislation governing. That's why we spoke to a lawyer, we spoke to a psychologist. Why it is that Nigerian companies do not adhere to this. So we'll listen to the lawyer now, still speaking of these cases. How should you get judgment if you institute a case against your employer?
As far as the cases are valued at the National Industrial Court is concerned, I will tell you that they go through the normal course of justice. And if the case go through the normal course of justice in this country, it may actually last more than a year. Subject to some administrative bottlenecks. But I can tell you for certain that as far as the courts in Nigeria are concerned, the National Industrial Court is one of the courts that is very effective and efficient in the dispensation of justice.
Another area of curiosity is whether private sector workers have the right to form or join unions. And we spoke to the NLC chairman, Ogun State chapter, Comrade Emmanuel Bankole, in this regard. And he clears this up as well as from the legal perspective. The Nigerian Labour Congress has its fundamental aims and objectives to promote the right, well-being and the interest of all workers, trade unions and the working class in general.
In the private sector, before you can have engagement, the workers need to be unionized. That is, they need to belong to a union. We have seen instances where the employer will not want them even to be unionized. They will intimidate, they will harass anyone who show interest. And that wise, our attention, when it's called to it, we move in and let the employer know that it's an inalienable right that is guaranteed by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, that is freedom of association. And so you cannot take it away from them. So sometimes we have to do picketing, some other rounds, sometimes blocking before they will not allow the workers to be unionized. So that's the starting point. Getting them people unionized in the private sector most times is a lot of work. We also discovered that in some of these private organizations, there are no condition of service. They just employ people, no contract between the employer and the employee. That is, they can just wake up and say, look, go. So we also intervene by way of ensuring that there must be condition of service well stated, known to the employer and the employee. We've seen a situation where they will just employ, no letter of appointment. We intervene also to ensure that there must be a formal letter of engagement, which will stipulate the rights of the worker and all other things of condition of service. Also, we have some situation where victimization, intimidation of labor leaders in those private settings. We have to intervene to ensure that their rights are protected. In the recent time, during COVID-19, we have cases where some of these private companies, they lock up Nigerians. They don't allow them to go out, giving them cheapest things to eat. I think they are prisoners. Even prisoners are well to take care of now. So we have to intervene to ensure that you cannot lock them up there. But in all this, labor movement is not ready. We can only intervene when our attention is called to it. We cannot stay here and know what is happening in some of these areas. So many of them. And for instance, in this private sector, there are minimum safety regulations that must be put in place. This is some of them. They will not even put in place any safety regulation. And you see avoidable accidents in workplace. Some of them permanent disability, and even death in some cases. In such cases, when our attention will have to ensure that basic necessity in terms of personal protection equipment are provided.
All right, so that's the NLC chairman of the Ogun State chapter, Comrade Emmanuel Bankole, and he's talking there about the right of private sectors too to form associations, to form unions. When we think of unions like NLC and TUC, we somehow don't think of private sector. We think of those working in civil service, government workers. But I mean, that's one area he cleared up as well. He said, even if you work in the private sector, you have your rights enshrined in the Constitution to be a part of TUC,
Right.
TUC,
NLC.
NLC, any union. Your employer cannot deny you that right. In fact, there's something the lawyer as well said, but unfortunately, we're out of time. He said, even if your employer were to put it in the contract that you are not allowed to join the union, that clause is null and void because it doesn't supersede the Constitution, which is supreme. And the Constitution has already guaranteed you freedom of association. So even if your employer makes you sign a contract saying, I will not join a union, that agreement is null and void. It cannot be used against you because the Constitution says something different. It says that you can't join any association. So now that you know your options, if you have worked in a toxic workplace, are working in a toxic workplace, or may work in a toxic workplace in the future, although I don't pray that for you. Let's get to the phone lines now and hear your thoughts. Do you think that, with everything you've heard now about the options for the Nigerian worker, about the welfare of workers and the rights of workers, do you think there's still anything holding back Nigerian workers from taking advantage of these options? That's the NLC chairman. They're saying, hey, we can't know everything. If you tell us about it, we'll intervene. But you can't expect to sit where you are and then we'll know what's happening to you.
That's right.
0817-444-1067, 0817-555-1067. Good morning.
Good morning. This is Ajidin from Agbon.
Thanks for calling, Tajiri.
God bless you guys for this wonderful discussion. Sincerely, I think, in my opinion, nothing should stop employees from making use of your available options. But I think it would be very great if these services are being rendered pro bono. Because, it should be a daunting task on an employee who is already in a traumatic position, a traumatic situation, to now start trying to get a redress and still be charged exorbitantly for doing so. So it's double tragedy as far as I'm concerned. One thing that I'm really surprised and bitter about is the Labour Act, which the barrister mentioned that we are still using the Labour Act of 1974. That is 48 years. Imagine someone who joined the civil service 48 years ago would have retired about 13, 15 years back. And we are still using that Labour Act. What are our lawmakers, what have they been doing? What are we paying them for? That's just my question. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Tajuddin. We appreciate your contribution. 0817-444-1067, 0704-400-1067, 0705 050-1067, Splash FM 106.7 on Facebook, Splash FM 1067 on Twitter. The hashtag is Panorama on Splash.
Hello.
Good morning.
Hello, good morning. Good morning. Afolabi is on the line.
Afolabi, go on. Thanks for calling.
I don't see a reason why any employer that is suffering, be it emotional or physical assault.
Afolabi, do us a favor. You are close to a radio set and it's interfering.
I'm so sorry. So, hello?
Yes, go on.
Can you hear me clearly now?
It's better now. Go on, please.
Yes, I don't see a reason why such an employer will not go to seek for legal.
Did you mean to say an employee? Because I heard you say
hello?
employer. Employee, right?
Sorry. Yes, I'm talking about an employee. Sorry.
Okay, all right, go on.
But at times, if you look at the attitudes or the character of some of these so-called employees that are complaining, they will not want to go and, create more.
Afolabi, are you still there?
Yes.
You sound hollow now. Did you change something about your connection?
Okay.
Although I'm using a hands-free.
Okay.
Yes, go on.
It's
It's better now. Go on.
Yes. So what I'm saying is this. It will be so absurd for anybody to be suffering and dying in silence without taking the right step as an employee. But at times, there are some of I, as a person, I am a self-employed person, and then I have suffered a lot in the hands of some employees. So
Employees or employers?
Employees. You're self-employed. That's what
I am an employer.
Yes,
I
go
said I
on.
have
Yes, go
suffered
on.
a lot in the hands of my employees.
Right.
So most of them will not come out to say the truth. Although it is wrong for any employer to start, putting people in difficult situations just because they are working with them. But the reason why some will not go as far as trying to pursue this issue is they will not want anybody to know what has happened, what has transpired that led to it. Although it may not be in all cases. But so it's always good. I think there will be a time where we can also talk about employers and let employers come and share their experiences with some employees. As you know that they can go crazy.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning. I knew this was going to happen, employers defending themselves. It's not an attack on employers exactly, but you should know that I made sure to ask the lawyer if there was any justification whatsoever for an employer, verbally abusing, calling his employee names, even if the employee is wrong. And he said, in the eyes of the law, it's still not enough grounds for you to start to call them names. So they might be wrong, but as they say, two wrongs don't make it right. So,
that's right.
Yeah, let's go back to the telephone lines. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning, Nicholas.
Thanks for calling, Nicholas. Go on.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, everybody has, when Justice Onoge was being tried, one of his rules, even if Justice Onoge killed somebody, the solution is not to now put a knife on Onoge's head and remove his throat. So, on the right of dignity, even a criminal in solitary confinement, every human has a right to dignity. Now, on this issue, there's an old Italian saying, everyone away known always speaks ill of the convent. Lola, until a tenant becomes a landlord, the tenant might not have ideas of what it takes to be a landlord. Because when you become a landlord and your tenants don't pay your delight bill, the water bill, the security bill, and your house looks a mess, it's your house that gets spoiled. The tenant is just one call away from a new building. So when we talk about toxic bosses, we should also talk about toxic employees. And let it be clear, when I was a boss was a man. Now a boss can also be a woman. And I would like you to expand this issue to David Udeyu, who talked about some people who benefited from toxic bosses, and when he didn't favor them, they now ran to Twitter. This issue, Andrew Cuomo left office as New York governor.
Right.
Italians use their hands more to talk. But in America, you must be careful with your hands. Some things we call toxic on some issues, on some other issues might not be toxic. It depends on the culture, the environment, and what you signed up to. And if you are really abused, do not miss a step in getting a toxic boss. Today, my friend is in his fourth year to get reprieve from a toxic boss in this town who comes from a family that thinks they own the state after God created the state. But it's not the direction. So sometimes we endure and suffer until somebody dies, somebody is dead, then we now rush to Twitter. What if Twitter does not exist? Have a nice day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Regarding what you said, David Ahunde's allegations, he has not backed them up with anything. He has not substantiated them. And those are grave allegations to make against someone. So he was alleging that a lady traded sexual favors to get a position, and you don't make an allegation like that unless you come with proof. Because far too often we've seen women who rise to the top and then get accused unfairly with no proof of having slept their way to the top. So unless you want to come with proof, then please don't mention that story. Unless, as I said, you want to come with proof. Now, back to what Tajuddin said. For pro bono cases, the lawyer mentioned that you can seek help of the Office of the Public Defender. He said there are a couple of human rights organizations as well that you can also use, but you can seek help with the Office of the Public Defender. That's one office that is constitutionally mandated to argue your case for you for free. It's owned by the government, and I believe they'll get you a lawyer to argue your case for you. Now, I was also going to cite some sections of the Labor Act, but we have to go on a commercial break. When we come back, we'll read your comments on social media, so keep them coming. We'll also head to the newspapers, so please stay with us. Panorama will return.
Don't dare touch that dial. It's Splash, your integrity station.
Ogun State Trade Fair is here again, and we at Farmer PLC, makers of great shoe brands in Nigeria since 1960, will be there to give you fantastic offers. Parents, school owners, and companies in need of safety boots, take advantage of this offer to get huge discounts on all our purchases. We are Farmer. We care for your foot needs. For more information, call 0704-887-9544 or 0818-351-3550.
bí a bá ń fọgbọ́n ṣe dandan ká gbé ìgbésẹ̀ pẹ̀lú rẹ̀. ìgbésẹ̀ ọ̀hún rèé tí iléeṣẹ́ àgbájọ homes and property ní ká gbé gẹ́gẹ́ bí ọlọ́gbọ́n torí pé a ò gbọ́dọ̀ sí kọ́kọ́rọ́ kù. ọ̀yá dam pressure estate 200,000 ní tẹ́lẹ̀ báyìí 100,000 lẹ́sàn. gúúsì estate òṣìẹ̀lẹ̀ àti randa high level phase 2 kọ́pàpẹ́ àti sódẹ̀kẹ́ tuntun phase 2 600,000 ní tẹ́lẹ̀ báyìí 300,000 lẹ́sàn. ilẹ̀ ń bẹ ní ìdíòrì blessed city garden 2.4 million naira ní tẹ́lẹ̀ báyìí 1.2 million lẹ́sàn. onígangan 1 million naira ní lọ́lọ́ báyìí 500,000 ní gbẹ́tàn rẹ̀. ilẹ̀ oko mọ́lọ́gẹ̀dẹ̀ orílẹ̀ lógún ọlọ́run dá 25,000 ní plọ̀tì báyìí. ilẹ̀ àgbẹ̀ kọ́bápẹ́ alábàtà ọ̀pẹ́jì 30,000 per plot. bẹ́ẹ̀ bára plọ̀tì mẹ́ta ìdajì lẹ́gbàsí ó sì jẹ́ éèkà lẹ́ra ẹ̀ ó gbòdìdì kan sí 39 NT road ọgbẹ̀ Abeokuta 07044648338 07044648338 gbé ìgbésẹ̀ lónìí àwọn ètò kọ́kọ́rọ́ kù. ọjọ́ kọkànlélọ́gbọ̀n oṣù táwọn. òwúkọ́ àti kọbàpẹ́ 100,000 ní plọ̀tì yìí bẹ́ẹ̀ sì ni lóko wọn ti di ọ̀pọ̀ yòókẹ́ mo lọ́kẹ̀dẹ̀ 25,000 ní plọ̀tì kan bẹ̀ kọbàpẹ́ alábàtà òṣìẹ̀lẹ̀ 30,000 ní plọ̀tì ẹ̀rà plọ̀tì mẹ́ta kẹ́ẹ̀gbá ìdajì sí bó sì jẹ́ ékàlẹ́ra òdìdí lẹ́gbàsí pẹ̀lú ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ àǹfààní tẹ́ẹ̀jẹ̀ lórí ilé oko wọn torí pé àwọn onírà àti onímọ̀ ìjìnlẹ̀ ti wà níkàlẹ̀ láti là ń lọ́yẹ̀ lórí kan tẹ́ẹ̀gbì sí ilé oko tẹ́ẹ̀ bára 4 mọ̀túndì abíọ́láwé ìlẹ́gò daily express furniture ni wọ́n wà ọlọ́ṣogbo Abẹ́òkúta Ògùn State 08033086557 08033086557. lóòótọ́ àṣeyọrí gan làgbà iṣẹ́ bẹ́ẹ̀ ń bá ń bá wa ná dandan ní kẹ́ láṣeyọrí ayọ̀ lọ́dọ̀ tiwa ọjọ́ kọkànlélọ́gbọ̀n oṣù tá a wà yìí láǹfààní yóò pẹ́.
Honey, must you go?
Babe, you know I must. Besides, you can always video call me.
Hey, what if your battery runs out?
I've got my power bank.
Hey, and when your power bank runs out?
Babe, I've got my laptop.
Okay, wait. What if your data runs out?
Babe, you know we never run out of data.
Never run out of data with Airtel Home Broadband Unlimited Ultra plans. Enjoy unlimited data with no speed cap plus extra data daily, so you never have to worry about running out. Visit www.airtel.com.ng/HBB to get started.
Panorama.
Panorama.
Panorama. Panorama.
Panorama.
Panorama on Splash 106.7 FM.
Thanks for sticking around and staying with us. Panorama is here on the radio dial. The dial is Splash 106.7 FM situated in Abeokuta. Thank you so much for staying here. We have comments from our issue of the day, which we'd have to read as fast as we can before we proceed to the second segment call from the pages. I have some WhatsApp messages here. I'll start with them. This person says, good morning, our able presenters in the studio. Well done for discussing this topic. I hope this helps sensitize people more and make the employers do the needful. However, the government isn't concerned with the challenges or well-being of our citizens. From Abdul Kudus. Thank you very much for sending that. Nicola says this: some allegations are false, some become true later. There is no doubt that some posts in this country are manned by persons who benefit from sex for grades and sex for high offices, even in America. There is, however, no justification for the denigration of a human by a fellow human but it happens especially in poor countries. Nicholas, thanks for sending that in. Those are the comments we have from WhatsApp.
It kind of reminds me of the Chris Rock, Will Smith conversation where some people are saying, oh, Chris Rock was wrong to have made that joke. And Will Smith too was wrong to have slapped Chris Rock. And that's a case of two people can be wrong at the same time. So, but Chris Rock making that distasteful joke was still not enough grounds for Will Smith to have slapped him. And that's really the right answer in that case. So even if your employee is wrong, why not go through the appropriate channels? Sanction them in some other civilized legal way, as opposed to doing something like physically assaulting them or verbally assaulting them. On Twitter, Ofemi says, #Panorama on Splash. How many institutions have a functioning HR department? Over 80% of workplaces in Nigeria are without HR departments. Generally, the welfare of workers in this country, be it in private or government sector, is nothing but trash. He goes on to say, I once worked for a boss who hit my leg with a glass bottle because I took him on critical reasoning. There are so many bosses out there who believe they are second to God and can treat workers badly. But in all of these, survival comes first. I'm sorry you had to go through that. That's exactly what we mean by toxic bosses, the things people do. Dr. Isaac White on Twitter says, to even think Nigerian government... Okay, I think he's reacting to the
Nigeria-Ghana game.
I forgot to mention that Boyga and I bragged yesterday about Nigeria.
So how do you feel now after bragging?
I'm not a sports lover. I was just doing my duty as a patriotic Nigerian. I'm not hurt. I don't feel anything. In fact, I think this should make us look inwards and focus on our issues.
This was one of the mechanisms for some people.
When people are dying in Kaduna and Abuja.
Some people might not forgive you for what you just said. I will say more than that.
But anyway, speaking of, this is really somber, but I have Vanguard newspaper here with me.
I have Nigerian Tribune to read through this morning for the headlines.
And the somber story I was referring to is how gunmen stormed train, rained terror on passengers. Now, we read the stories yesterday. It was still a developing story. No one had been, announced as dead at the time. It was even a side story on one of the news. I don't think it was a major headline on the newspapers yesterday. So we just talked about it generally with the insecurity. But later in the day, I went on Twitter and then started seeing people panicking, saying they hadn't seen their loved ones who were on that train. Someone had been shot and was asking for Nigerians to pray for her. And it turns out that she has been confirmed dead as a victim of that attack. And it reminds us that as far removed as these attacks often seem, because we're here in the southwest and it's happening in the north.
Right.
Sometimes it unfortunately takes somebody we know in some way for it to feel real to us, and for us to realize that it's actually human lives that are being butchered in this manner. It's not chickens. It's humans that are being killed. This is one lady, one man's life and lineage just snuffed out like that. But the Vanguard has the pictures of those killed as a result of that attack. They are Musa Ozigi, Chinelo Nwando, who is the young lady I was referring to. She was allegedly a doctor, and some even say that she had plans to leave the country soon when this unfortunate attack happened. Akinshola too is also a victim of that attack, who did not make it, as well as Abdul Kofar Mata. May their souls rest in peace, and may we find answers to this. There are also two people who are injured who we hope will recover from this. They are Wakala and Mariatu Bala Usman. Anguish as 8 died, 26 injured, scores missing. Survivors, families recount ordeal. NRC suspends Abuja-Kaduna train operations after bomb attack. Says 398 passengers bought tickets. 362 validated for trip. I'd read somewhere else there was about 900 passengers on that plane. I guess, that was misreported. Buhari directs security agencies to rescue kidnapped passengers, says no one should hold Nigeria to ransom. Buhari calls for immediate repair of damaged lines, resumption of normal service. Bombard terrorist enclave, Senate tells military. We need helicopters, drones, others to tackle insecurity on rail routes. Amechi says Tinubu cancels birthday colloquium. On Constitution Review, National Assembly then gets the president's assent. That is, provided each of these bills can get 2/3 approval in each of the houses and in 24 of the 36 states of the Federation. Khan says on 2023 that it's time for the South to produce a Christian president. On convention, APC bigwigs task Adamu-led NWC on winning the 2023 polls. More on 2023, Osho APC places embargo on campaigns, focuses on Oyetola's re-election. Massive support trails Peter Obi's declaration of presidential ambition. Soludo nominates 20 commissioners, 15 special advisors. This says, ex-governor Kwankwaso of Kano State dumps PDP for NNPP. CBN bars credit guarantee companies from accepting deposits. Finally, from the front page of Vanguard, Buhari says revenue from crude oil is too volatile and unreliable.
All right, from Nigerian Tribune, the big story again, as Lola read from the Vanguard as well, is Kaduna train attack. Survivors recount ordeal with terrorists. Multiple riders trail this one. The first one says our attackers were between 18 and 20 years. The second rider says they were Fulani speaking Hausa, looked like Chadians, Nigerian. About 500 security personnel came to our rescue. Another rider, 8 bodies recovered, 26 injured. Search continues. Another rider, still relatives that are meant to missing loved ones, flood social media. Here is another. NMA mourns Dr. Chinelo, a dentist. TUC loses General Secretary, Kwara Chairman. BOAMD among missing victims. Buhari directs integrated security surveillance meets with service chiefs. Tinubu cancels birthday colloquium. Oshibajo service chiefs visit scene. And the final rider, bombard terrorist enclaves. Senate cries out to military. Here is this as well. 2023, we will produce acceptable zoning formula for PDP. This is from Benue State Governor Samuel Autumn. We find that on page 11. Reps summon AGF Finance Minister orders over non-implementation of police new salary. We find that on page 13. Police forward attack on Dangote refinery in Lagos. You'll find that on page 27. Enumerated honored at Time 100 Impact Awards. You'll find that on page 6. Lagos police trail sponsors of abductors of school children. You find that one on page 26. Kwankwanso dumps PDP. You find that on page 11. Ipman blames private depot owners for hiking PMS price. You find that on page 7. Nigeria has recorded 120 deaths, 659 cases of Lassa fever this year. This is coming from the Nigeria Center for Disease Control and CDC. You find the details on page 23. FG declares state of emergency on childhood tuberculosis. You find that on page 23. AFCC secures conviction of 2,220 for cybercrime, recovers over 152 billion naira. You find that on page 11. That story, or that is according to Abdul Rashid Bar, the boss of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. And there's a picture of Vice President Yemi Osinbajo during his visit to the victims of the Kaduna train attack, also, as well as Governor Nasir El-Rufai with a victim as well, who is a former deputy governor of Zamfara State. And there's also the picture of the train that was attacked, as well as Lake Dr. Chinelo Megafu, as well as the Kwara Trade Union Congress chairman who lost their lives in the sad incident. And that's those are the stories on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune. We have Eddy Aina joining us for this one. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. Right.
Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
Even though, I mean, this first story is just, it's such a downer, really, such a sad story. But let me read excerpts from the story. It says that the survivors confirmed, the Nigeria Railway Corporation confirmed that 8 casualties in the attack, that there were 8 casualties in the attack, and it also left 26 injured and scores missing. We already read out some of the 8 casualties, but not that the high-profile ones are more important than the, but these are the ones people know. That's the Secretary General of the Trade Union Congress of Nigeria, TUC, that's Musa Lawal Ozigi, Kwara State Chairman of the Union, and then the Dr. Chinelo Megafu Nwando. And her story is even it's sadder. It sends more pangs of sadness in one, because I was on Twitter and I saw her tweets, although it was belated, but I saw where she had tweeted that she has been shot and that we should pray for her. And, there were some people even in the tweet mocking her, claiming that she was lying, that she was trying to gain political capital or smear the reputation of Dr. Chinelo. And it turned out that, she passed on from the attack, which is, that's a young lady's life snuffed out. Everyone's life there matters, and everyone who has passed on now, they are a victim of Nigeria's war against insecurity. But can we even call it a war against insecurity? What grounds have we gained? 2 days ago, less than 48 hours ago, well, maybe roughly about 48 hours ago, the Kaduna airport too was also laid siege to. The army is debunking that, saying that it was close to the airport, but not the airport. But it took them a little too long to change to come up with that narrative or their account of what happened. Not to mention, the Nigerian army's credibility is not exactly at its best when it comes to these things. There have been people, we're seeing Nigerian citizens choosing different options, what they believe to be safer options to travel, when one option is made impassable as a result of insecurity. The road was made impassable, so the people said, let's take the trains, let's take the air, let's go by air. But now even those are locked on standstill because the airport has been grounded as a result of that attack. And so what then do we do? Do we keep running around and trying to find more solutions, or do we fix the existing problems we have? That's a question I asked yesterday as well, Eddie.
Well, condolences, to the families, that have lost their lives, and those in the hospital. We wish them quick recovery. Let me begin this way. Of recent, it has become a topic of debate. Is Nigeria a failed state? There was an article written by Foreign Policy, and that was in May, last year. And the title was "Nigeria is a failed state." And two prominent individuals wrote the article: Robert Robach, a political scientist, and John Campbell. John Campbell was Nigeria's ambassador to Nigeria, the U.S. ambassador to Nigeria, and they wrote that article. But what is important is, what are the characteristics of a failed state? Or what are the characteristics of a state, a strong state? Physical security. That's number one. Number two, incorruptible political institutions, strong economy, and social services, when you care for your people.
All right.
But another definition of a failed state says that when a state has is incapable, of protecting its citizens, and the citizens are always, just like we have now, that when three of those four characteristics, are missing, then it's tending to a failed state. But a failed state, again, is a state that has lost or near grip or total grip on law and order, and to the extent that you cannot protect your citizens again. But going down there, one other definition is very instructive here, and that is the fact that when a state is either incapable or unable to protect its citizens, when you have a degenerate economy, there is corruption, and in the final analysis, even those who are in leadership positions can no longer, think out of the box, they are no longer capable to save the situation. That's what we're saying. Now, back to the question. With that, you can decipher, given what has been happening in Nigeria in the last. In fact, this year alone, about 565 people, have lost their lives between January to date.
All right.
Not only that, at the airport, Lola referred to one. They attacked. In fact, we're going to lose so many things because foreign countries will now be afraid to come, to Nigeria because Nigerian airports are not safe. And we are talking of a very terrible economy. Not only that, what is supposed to be a a symbol of security in this country. That's the Nigerian Defense Academy. It was attacked.
Right.
2 soldiers were killed. One was abducted. Even after that, although they were given a bloodied nose, they went back there, but 20 of them were killed. And now we are seeing this. In fact, what happened yesterday had happened before. And the question you ask, just like Lola wanted to know, where do we go? The roads are impassable. The roads are in tatters. Although some people will argue that infrastructure has been the greatest achievement of this administration, nobody is doubting that. But the fact remains that Nigerian roads are not the best. Travel from Abeokuta, to Abuja, even within townships. So you cannot go by road because there are people. They wait for you at those junctions that are not good. They wait for you to attack you there. So Nigerians are afraid. And even our leaders, National Assembly members, ministers, and so on, they choose to go by air or go by the rail.
Right.
And now the rails are not okay again. The rails are in problem because we have people who are attacking. I mean, IEDs, improvised explosive devices.
That's right.
And I'm so shocked by the reactions of some of them. Now, they've decided now that they are going to use, even when we met with the president yesterday, that they are going to use native people to protect those things. In fact, the first people that they're going to attack are the vigilantes. They did it in Niger State recently. In fact, less than 2 weeks ago, they killed those vigilantes. They caught them unawares and all that. So how can you use vigilantes all over the world? You use technology, to protect. Even the vandalization we have experienced in Niger Delta. You use drones, and the minister is saying, Amici, ridiculously enough, that yes, they approved this thing, but they didn't release the money on time. You have bureaucracy, and that caused, lives. It's incredible. It means you are not. I mean, it's so sad. Life is the cheap. Killing or loss of life is the cheapest in Nigeria now. Whereas America will go the whole hog, to save one person. Right. The last one in Niger State, they came. That the man was the person that was kidnapped. They not only came, they came and killed the 6 people that kidnapped and took their person away. America will follow one individual. If you're American national, you are a Nigerian national, dual citizenship, and you are holiday in Nigeria, they know where you are, they'll follow you, they keep tab on you. And see, loss of lives in Nigeria is so incredible. You keep wondering, where do we go from here?
Right. Now, Eddie, this attack is significant and not in a good way because, first of all, the rail is one of the proudest achievements of this administration. Whenever they're asked to list their achievements, they point to the rail. But, I mean, the rail itself might be working, but if it's not safe, it's pretty much...
It's not. It means it's not working.
I mean, it's not useless because people are not going to go by the rails if they know that they may get kidnapped or shot at or killed.
Yes.
So, this is the first rail attack.
No, it has happened between
not the first rail attack. This is the first rail attack that will result in casualties.
Yes,
that will result in casualties.
Okay, fine, yeah.
That other one, no one died from it.
Right.
So this is the first rail attack that will result in casualties. And also one of the reasons Nigerians were even generally celebrating rail was because they felt it was a safer way to travel. Because, as I said, the roads had been made impassable due to insecurity. The Abuja-Kaduna road is said to be a death trap. Kidnappings going on heavily around that route, and so many people are looking at the rails. The more they develop, people. But now this has sent a message to them that even the rails are not impervious to attacks.
Sure.
Another thing is, these attacks seem to be encroaching closer and closer, and reaching everywhere.
Well, of course.
And it is also now starting to affect even the elite because the airports, the rails, a former deputy governor was on that train. So now that it's finally starting to affect them, do you think that this may be what will trigger actual reform in our security tactic and we'll see appreciable progress in the fight against insecurity? Appreciable.
Lola, I'm not optimistic. Sorry to say. You see, because each time this thing happened, the president will summon the meetings of heads of security agencies, and they will take decisions. The last one they took, release 3 billion naira, procure Because when you talk of security, you are talking of surveillance. You are talking of drones. You are talking of technology to detect on time. You are talking of CCTV. Where has it worked in Nigeria? When has it worked in Nigeria? More often than not, we are reactive. Our leaders are reactive. They are not proactive. If they are proactive, all this bureaucratic networks, yeah, they will have released the money and so on and so forth, so that these things will be protected. But because the common man, when beggars die, there are no common sin. The heavens themselves blaze for the death of princesses, and that is what we are seeing now. The common man had been at the receiving end. Now he's touching them gradually. Even the National Assembly. Federal seat. America has in thousands, even up to bridges. You have policing system on bridges. They are so. I mean, at times when I talk like I feel worried. Nobody should tell us that when you are talking of security, you start from the grassroots. You start from the communities. You supply police. The central police will be there. In America, the central police is there. FBI, everything is there. After all, when Trump lured his people out to go and attack the Capitol, the first set of people that faced them were this police system before the FBI, Capitol Police, before the FBI came. Why are we behaving like a proverbial ostrich? You bury your head, buries his head in the sand, forgetting that all the flanks are out there for people to see. It's now that now know that we need state police. Abba, look, 68 items you read, 68 items in the fifth alteration. Only 44 were touched. State police was rejected by the state, by these same people that are now talking of state police. Why are we talking head, Martin, it's honestly, as a Nigerian, I feel worried. No. Because our leaders, it can be upsetting. Our leaders will not do the right thing either for reason of ethnicity or for reason of power. The reason behind not allowing state police is because somebody somewhere there wants the president to control the policing system down there. Some people are blaming El-Rufai and all the other governors. They are just, they call them as chief security officers. With what? Whereas if you have a state police, even those of them that are talking of they will bastardize it, they will misuse it. Are they not misusing it? Is the federal system not misusing it? Some people will be arrested, especially headers, and they will be released right from Abuja. They will release others from what are we talking about?
Eddie, do you think the about turn that the National Assembly is doing is because now they see that they themselves are threatened? Because how else will they travel?
Exactly.
If the rail is not safe, the air is not safe, and the roads are not safe, are they going to stay stuck in their state?
Exactly. It's selfishness. But during the war, when Hitler, unleashed war on the whole country, on the world.
The Jews, right?
Yes. Lola, I'm disappointed. Because after the
is there anything in the president's handling of this situation that's different from the way he has handled past crises?
No, I don't see it.
Flush them out.
If we flush them out of the way, even how long did it take us to accept? Six Nigerians. Yes, the US. It took UAE to identify 6 Nigerians. There are people behind all these things. The equipment these guys use is confounding. Big, even the ones that are soldiers don't have come into the country. We have custom, we have immigration, we have security people. Even the attack at the airport. We're now talking of the perimeter fencing. Perimeter fencing. We travel all over the world, and I know in London, now, how do you get there? Those places are sacred. They are kept because they know the impact of security all over. I mean, it's honestly.
All right, let's move on from that and let's talk sports some. And this is disappointment has trailed the fact that the Super Eagles will not be a part of the party at Qatar 2022. I mean, Eddie's a sports enthusiast, really.
And I thought we were going to start, but Lola Lola says she's not bothered.
Gentlemen, you can take it away.
Anyway, for what it's worth, I mean, the game ended 1-0 in Abuja, and Ghana qualified on the way goal
all of that. That's how they qualified.
Yes, how they qualified. And I was worried. I knew it was going to happen.
So you saw it coming?
I saw it happen because we ought to have scored there. We didn't score there.
Right.
If we had scored 1 goal there and we come here, or we have equalized in that place, scored 1-1, goal, then you come here, then you go to penalties. So it gives you an opportunity. Once they came here, I know they were going to have it's football. You just defend your house, score 1 goal and defend even if they score 1-1. The away advantage, is given to you. Although we shouldn't be bothered. Egypt too lost.
Right.
His own brother in Liverpool. That did it to him. In fact, God saved Portugal because if Macedonia had not defeated Italy,
right?
I mean, so football is not mathematics, but within the context of Nigeria, we have enough players. I mean, we should be dominating.
Which I think is a worry because, I mean, it's a squad of talented players that should be prosecuting the whole qualification and all of that.
Daniel, all the rest of them.
Right.
Maybe, and people, in fact, they lambasted the coach.
Yes, right.
Because people have even started interrogating, why did we remove Raw? And honestly, I believe that you don't remove somebody, you don't remove a coach at that peak. You have allowed him to go through the whole hog, then the result will not determine that is CAF and World Cup Qatar,
right?
Whether to relieve him of his duties or not. But we did it, and it's so sad that I mean, given our population, given our human resources, given the number of players that we have exported outside this country that are doing good.
But Eddie, that sounds different from what I heard you sports analysts and pundits saying shortly after the AFCON.
Okay.
We're full of commendations for Iguavoin.
Really? After the AFCON?
Really?
Yes.
It was disappointing.
The performance of the Super Eagles until they lost. They had a winning streak.
What of CAF?
The Nations
Cup.
What
of CAF? Start from that, please.
I think that's it. The group stage was a perfect 3 wins, but then when it came down to
16.
the knockout, the round of 16, then Tunisia shocked Nigeria
with 1 goal.
Yeah,
and that's just it's so sad. We have players. Sorry, Ndidi took ill. I mean,
he got injured.
Because if Ndidi had handled that midfield, I'm sure we'll have been. I mean, it would have made the difference. But unfortunately.
So what does it mean that we're sitting out this World Cup?
We'll be watching from our television set.
So who are we cheering for now? Who are we transferring our patriotism to?
Well, to 4 of them: Cameroon, Tunisia, Senegal,
right?
Ghana,
and
Ghana. That's right. I don't know if Algeria were able to make it through.
No, only 4 of them.
No, there's supposed to be 5 actually.
If they are 5, then I think Algeria.
It's such a shame that the workers in Abuja that were giving up all amounted to nothing.
Honestly.
Well, we should talk about the fact that the fans went on rampage right after.
Yeah, they were. You can imagine if we are feeling this way. And you can imagine somebody who has sat through the sun and all that, well, it was in the evening, 6 o'clock. But, the football is the only unifying factor in this country. And that is the saddest part of it. And we are not even using that advantage, to unite, a diverse set of people. And I think maybe we will learn from here, from this Qatar disaster.
So the African nations that will be at Qatar, Ghana at the expense of Nigeria, Senegal beating Egypt on penalties 3-1. Cameroon win on away goals against Algeria. That's pretty interesting. And Morocco also won 5-2 against DR Congo, as well as Tunisia, who won 1-0 on aggregate against Mali.
Another issue is this: Europe or UEFA has scrapped this advantage thing we are talking about. Isn't it time we did it? In CAF. You see, because without this away goal thing,
I've gone on to penalties or extra time.
If they had won on penalties, I would, because after all, Robert
Lewandowski.
No. This Italian, the Italian that lost
Roberto
Baggio. Fantastic. He lost a penalty. Ronaldo had lost on so many occasions. I wouldn't have minded and said, okay, it's game of love. But this is not. I mean, it's just.
All right, sad story. So, for those who are supporters, I mean, maybe just be like Lola this morning, and maybe numb, to the feelings and all of that, and that's fine.
I have my own means of escaping. Not football, but yeah.
Well, under 20 girls are doing fine.
Yeah,
and I expect our under 17 girls
to also do well. Right.
All right. Well, keep your comments coming in on social media about the stories we are taking from the papers. This is from the pages on Splash 106.7 FM. React to any story whose headline we've read or we've taken in detail. You can even choose sports if you like. Just tweet at us at Splashfm 1067. Hashtag to use is Panorama on Splash. As you tweet on Facebook, we're streaming live. The comment section there is also for you to drop a comment section in. It's Splashfm 106.7, and the WhatsApp number is 0817 555 1067. Now let's head over to page 10 of the newspapers, where the Christian Association of Nigeria is asking that the country produces a Christian president. I mean, it's one thing, we're already debating whether it's a northern or southern president.
Yeah, right.
Now we have to zone it even further to determine the religion. I wonder at what point we'll start looking at the tribe, the tongue the person speaks, and other things, maybe the color of the person's skin too. But this says, President of the Christian Association of Nigeria, CAN, Reverend Samson Ayokunle, yesterday urged Nigerians, especially from the south, to produce a Christian to take over the mantle of leadership in 2023. Now, Eddie, what do you think of this? I mean, sometimes it feels like, should we deny Nigeria's we want to build a more progressive society where people don't see things like tribe, ethnicity, religion, and we just regard ourselves as one Nigeria. But is that the reality on ground? How do we get to that point? Because sometimes these things hurt us. The fact that we're always looking at all these criteria that do not necessarily speak to governance, capabilities. Because a Christian president may not necessarily be a better president than a Muslim one, just like a northern president may not be better than a southern, or southern president may not be better than a northern president. So when are we going to get past these conversations and, look beyond these zoning and focus on capability to govern?
Well, that's the way to go, really, but I'm not sure we have reached that stage now. Because even if you look at states, I mean, this issue of zoning there, for instance, in Ogun State, we are saying the Yewas, haven't gotten it. In the East, we are saying, the Igbos should have it and what have you. But we started with it, and that's the saddest part of it. The first party that was formed in the eastern part, in the northern part of the country, had the Sadano of Sokoto, who formed the then MPC. But just to show you the relationship between religion, and politics. Or again, you can read Father Matthew Kuka, religion, politics, power, religion and politics in northern Nigeria. They are Siamese twins. They cannot be divorced in this country. If we are going to do it, it will take another 20 years for us to do it, because we started with it. And at that point in time, even the present head of the de facto head of Muslims, Sultan of Sokoto, Sultan of Sokoto is the at that point in time, was the pioneer patron, patron general, of that party. And so, in that part of the country, is there with them. But again, if you look at it from this angle, from the Christian angle, until 1949, the Christians were not bothered, about who paid tax in or forming political parties and what have you. But since 1949, when they now saw it, and unfortunately, when different regimes that ruled in this country, whether the military, it was under the military that we were taken to IOC, it was IBB that took us to Nigeria, to the International Organization of Islamic whatever, of Islamic countries and what. Now, we have not been able to divorce it. We send people pilgrimages. Whereas the law says we are a secular state, chapter 10 says you don't have to do anything that has to do, allow individuals to do religion, but states have been unable. We still have Christian pilgrimage association. You have Muslim pilgrimage people who are organizing it and what have you. We have refused to divorce our religion, from politics. So it's a bit difficult. Unfortunately, if you look at what is happening in the northern part of the country, largely, and some it has even come to the southern part of the country, you discover that the Christians feel that one way or the other they have been attacked. You call Trump when Trump was there as the president. He even accused, he mentioned something like that to our president when they met.
Right.
He said, why are you crucifying? Why are you persecuting, chastising, Christians? So that has been there. And especially between 2015 and 2022 and 2023, I mean, if you look at appointments and what have you, maybe by coincidence, but look at the security agencies, you find out that most of them are, from a certain part of this country are Muslims.
So what does this mean for the chances of the APC candidates who has sort of been everywhere?
Well, it depends on you and I, but I do know that unlike America, until Jimmy Carter came on board, Jimmy who? Nobody from the South. Most of the leaders, have been coming from presidents, came from the North. I say Jimmy Carter, but eventually won. So in those societies, you don't have the multi-ethnic things we have in this country, 400 multi-ethnic groups in this country. And with religion seriously entrenched in our psyche, in our everything. I mean, look at the North. You can't have a governor, a woman, a lady governor in the northern part of the country. Even not even a deputy governor. Save for the El-Rufai that tried it, once and all that, So it's part of us. I do not, and because of when you talk of power, you are talking of politics. Politics is authoritative allocation of resources. I mean, politics is power. You share power, representation, and what have you. So because of that, it will continue to be in our national life. The hope of the person you think, anybody that is a Muslim, let's wait and see. Most of the people who want to come from the north too, they say they want to come back in 2003. Most of them are Muslim. Are you talking of Saraki? Are you talking of Tambua? Are you talking of the Bauchi, Bala Mohammed? Are you talking of Atiku? So most of them are Muslims.
All right. Well,
so it's going to be power play.
Speaking of presidential ambitions, what do you make of quickly Peter Obi's declaration of presidential ambition?
No, it's good. It's part.
He's a southeasterner.
He's one of these. Not only him. There is Aim there.
I mean,
there's
Peter Obi does enjoy, should I say, popular support to some degree. People think favorably of him.
Yes, but there's the Panama Papers.
I'm not sure that really made a dent in people's perception of him.
That's because we are Nigerians. In other climes, you must clear yourself of all those things, before you. But apart from that, I think he's the person I expect to come out and has not come out is Obunaya Onu. Because that guy, he had been
as a minister of
technology
ICT
and science and whatever. He has been, when he was governor of Abia State, before Abia was divided. I think Abia part of a way. Fantastic human being. He doesn't talk, very cerebral, and he's cool-headed. That's one person I know people will love. I mean, he doesn't have any baggage. Go and unlike some others like Ojizo Kalu and all the rest, Okorosha and all the rest of them. So it's somebody, but even Obi too. But will he make it? With the APDP saying they are going to throw it open, and the North has not done its own the number of years it's supposed to do. That the South had done Obasanjo, GEG, 13 years or thereabout, and they did only.
I don't see Northerners saying that. I think they're just saying that time to rest.
In fact, you are making that's what is on the cards now. In fact, that's why they want to lure GEJ. Come and complete your 4 years because you cannot be sworn in 3 times. You only do your 4 years and come back to us. Oh my God, my dear. That's the game plan.
Let's head over to the phone lines now. 0817-555-1067. That's also the WhatsApp number. 0817-444-1067, 0704-400-1067, 0705-050-1067. Good morning to you. What's your name?
Hello, Nicholas.
Nicholas, thank you for calling back. Go ahead.
Yeah. Am I clear?
Yes, loud and clear. Go ahead.
Okay. It is the height of hedonistic, sadomasochistic tendency for us to be worried about the loss of life when it affects whatever we define as the elites. In a serious country, everybody, including the animals, are VIPs. But in Nigeria, we tag a bunch of Jezebels who are in cahoots with Nebuchadnezzar, whose only ideology is to instill suffering to those who gave them the votes. 2 weeks ago, Emmanuel Onuche, my very good friend, survived in Kafanchan. Some of us told the whole world. In that day, 30 human beings, 30, including an Air Force officer, including a lady who survived an attack in Kafanchan 2 years ago, all left this world. Then it is when those who stole the money, or some innocent ones who made cool money or suffered to study medicine like Dr. Chinelo, when their planes cannot fly, and the young boys from Chad and Mali set the bombs on the railways, then it appears like news. And this is what was called in political lexicon some years ago as Afghanistanizing. When nations want to forget their problems, the deaths and killings in their streets and their backyard, they rush to Afghanistan. And it's unfair. On soccer, in South American nations, soccer has been the basis for revolutions and formation of political parties. But when we have a lawyer as NFF president, how do we go to the World Cup? State Eddy Aina, why don't compare Nigeria with Senegal and Cameroon? Must we be compared with failed states? There are countries that, even by West African standards, there are countries that have understood how to lead a nation and a football federation. So, see Eto. Eto conquered football as a player and now taking his nation as the second president. That is a model. It must not come from Harvard. Let me allow that to go, please.
All right. Thank you for your consideration of others. 0817-444-1067, 0817-555-1067. Hello. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Afolabi. Afolabi, we're not loving this connection. Call us back if you can, please. 0817-555-1067. That's also the WhatsApp number, 0705-050-1067, 0704-400-1067. I guess this is Afolabi calling back. Good morning.
Hello, Lola.
Yes, I can hear you now.
Can you hear me clearly now? Hello?
Go on. Go ahead with your thoughts.
Yeah. I want to agree with you. Nigeria is a complete failed state. And if you look at the qualities we possess right now, the country possesses right now, and then what is defined as a failed state, Nigeria is a failed state. So there's no argument about that. Now, I want to say again that it is not very obvious, even because now we all know that the problem, the solution to a Nigerian problem lies with the National Assembly, especially. Because they are the ones that are supposed to give us good legislation that the executive will work upon, where the judiciary will do the needful in order to make it well interpreted. So we now see who our enemies are. Those people that are causing us, that are giving us problems, we now see them. It is only when they benefit from certain things they legislate towards that thing. And it is a great problem. It still lies, the solving of this thing also lie on us to question whoever wants to go to the National Assembly, to let that person tell us what exactly they will do for us. If it is possible, we make them sign if they come to our constituency. But I don't know whether we have a solution to that problem, because they have been promised the populace, and then you never think right. So they have downgraded us to two thinkers, So I pray we get out of this, but I'm not seeing any visible change in sight. So I am now very pessimistic about the situation of the country. So that one. About the football, our inability to qualify for Qatar 2022, we never deserve it. By all standards, we never deserve to qualify for that competition because we didn't play as if we were serious for that competition to win. We didn't play. So even that yesterday, just like Lola, I am also not hurt in any way. In fact, I slept very well. Even after the match, I had to go out and don't play. So we don't deserve it. So when we know we have failed, let us agree to it that we have failed, and so that we can begin to think in the other direction. See, in this kind of qualification, local home-based players are the best to use because they understand the climate and the terrain of African pitches and football. So let us leave it there. I am not as well.
Thank you, Afolabi, for your contribution.
Should begin to subject people's patriotism to a test.
When was the last World Cup we won, by the way?
One?
We've never won anything? We've never? Wow. Wow. We don't have bragging rights.
I think last 16.
No, never got into
that. And how many World Cups have there been?
Several.
When did the first World Cup?
1930. Yeah, 1930. Uruguay.
And it's every year?
Every 4 years.
Every 4 years.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a lot of World Cups, and we've not won any.
No. Anyway, well, matter of fact, no African country has won any. So, in an illustrious company, if you could put it that way.
No African.
Yes, no African country has won a World Cup. Let's really comment on WhatsApp. Good morning, Lola and Benga. You guys are doing so wonderful. I just want to appreciate Splashfm crew as well as the management for educating and impactful programs dishing out every day despite the harsh economy we are battling with in this country.
Thank you. Who is that from?
The person who put the name. This
first
is from Nicholas.
Texas?
Yeah, first time. If Chris Rock died from a heart attack from the barbaric slap, he would be in jail for second-degree murder. On the Eagles, the sports journalists in Accra are definitely happier than the sport journalists in Nigeria. It's unfortunate Nigeria is yet to harness the unique advantages soccer or sports can bring to serious nations, even on issues relating to crime fighting. Thank you, Nicholas. This is Akinwale from camp who says, I've been trying my best since yesterday evening when I heard of the death of Dr. Chinelo to move past her death. It is not because I know her that I have not seen or heard the death of someone even close to me, but her death hit so hard on me. Maybe because of the many thoughtless trolls, one of which came from a supposed 60-year-old woman who is supposed to be a mother. This is not about gender, please. Where is our humanity? She could have read some of those tweets while fighting for her life. Her heart would be broken. I just want to cry, but the tear is not coming. Where exactly did we get it wrong in this country? The presidency didn't even say anything until many hours after the incident. If our lives are worth anything to those people who are supposed to be our leaders. I've been so broken since yesterday. I don't even know how to get off this thought and pain. I'm so broken right now.
Sorry.
Rest in peace, Dr. Chinelo. Oh no, this one's a high, so doesn't matter. Well, that's how far we can go. We have to wrap it now.
We also have Facebook, where Son Hezekiah says, football will not be part of scoping money this year. Let's face internal war and general election. Rest in peace to the precious soul wasted yesterday. Agbo Samuel says, on Qatar fallout, our expectations as Nigerians were cut short by the Eagles. Sports is probably the only joy of an average Nigerian who has seen and heard enough of bad news lately. I can't take the rest of your comments as we do have to go.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to everyone who's still calling, but let's reconvene tomorrow from 8 o'clock.
Right.
Benga and Odera will take you through from the pages as well as the issue of the day.
We'll have Chief Shegun Showomi tomorrow with us for the issue of the day.
Well, I will see you next Monday. So until then, Sir Eddie, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for
Panorama.
having me. Thanks for having me.
Enjoy the rest of your day. My name is Lola Meduteni.
I am Benga Fayo. Have a fantastic day.